Alex Drayton had always believed that working on Elysium Station would be just another routine posting. It was a neutral space hub floating on the edge of known space, a meeting point for humans, aliens, and species that humans hadn't even learned to pronounce. Every day brought a mixture of paperwork, medical emergencies, and diplomatic oddities. But nothing could have prepared him for the day the massive alien ship arrived. He was in the med bay, checking the status of the station's emergency supplies when the alarms rang. They were not the kind that screamed danger. These were low, rhythmic alerts that hinted at importance without panic. Alex glanced at the main view screen and froze. A colossal ship loomed in the docking bay. Its shape was unlike anything human engineers had ever designed. Smooth curves combined with jagged edges and a subtle shimmer ran across its surface, like liquid metal frozen in place. The Thryn, the species rumored to be aboard, were legendary in the galaxy. Insectoid in appearance, their reputation preceded them. Proud, stoic, and extremely private, especially when it came to their queen. Alex swallowed nervously. Okay, he muttered to himself. Just another day at work. By the time the docking clamps engaged, a Thryn delegation had already begun disembarking. They moved with precise elegance, every motion deliberate and commanding. Alex watched them from the med bay, trying not to seem too human in his gawking. He had seen Thryn from a distance before, but never this close. Then he noticed her. The Queen. She was larger than the others, her presence immediately demanding attention. But something was wrong. A shimmer of silver fluid marked her back, and she moved carefully, almost painfully as she stepped down onto the station floor. Medical emergency, Alex whispered, already grabbing his medical kit. He had been trained for difficult situations, but this was unprecedented. The Thryn rarely allowed outsiders near their royalty. The Queen stopped and looked around, her many eyes focusing on Alex. He froze, unsure if she could even understand him, or if that was the moment he would be escorted out, or worse. A Thryn guard moved forward, antennae twitching nervously. No human may touch the Queen, he said in precise English. Only her spouse may attend her wounds. Alex hesitated. The word struck him like a wall. He didn't want to disrespect their culture, but he had been trained to act. He glanced at the Queen again. Her wings fluttered weakly and a faint hiss escaped her throat. Pain, not anger. Please, Alex said softly, stepping forward. I can help. I have the knowledge and the tools. The Thryn Council exchanged looks. A murmur of voices passed among them, alien and quick, and the Queen tilted her head slightly. There was no aggression in her gaze, only curiosity. Alex opened his kit and moved closer, carefully keeping his hands visible. Every step felt heavier than it should. The Queen didn't move away. She remained still, allowing him to approach, as if measuring his intentions. He knelt beside her and examined the wound. It was along her upper back, just below the ridge of her wing, and it wasn't severe but could become serious if left untreated. He applied antiseptic carefully, speaking softly, even though she may not understand. It's okay. Just cleaning it now. The Queen let out a quiet hum, almost like a sigh. Alex froze. Did she just acknowledge him? Or was it reflex? He focused on his work, cleaning the wound with precision and care. Minutes passed. The Thryn guards were tense, their antennae twitching rapidly. The Queen's eyes never left Alex's hands. When he finally applied the healing gel, she leaned forward slightly, exposing more of the wound. You can touch me, she said, her voice a deep, melodic vibration that resonated in the room. No human has done this before. Alex blinked. I only wanted to help, he said. The Queen's gaze softened. Help? Yes, help is rare. The Thryn Council shifted uneasily. Their queen had never spoken to a human in this manner, and some of the younger guards looked shocked. Alex finished applying the final layer of treatment and stepped back, breathing a little easier. You have courage, the Queen said, her voice directed at him. And compassion, That is unusual among your kind. Alex felt a warmth in his chest. He had come to the station thinking he was just another medic, another human in a sea of aliens, but in that moment, he realized that humans could surprise even the most advanced civilizations. "Will she be okay?" he asked one of the guards. "She will recover," the guard said, but his tone was hesitant. "This act will be remembered." Alex frowned. "Remembered?" The Queen tilted her head. "Yes, humans are unpredictable, but sometimes they act in ways that cannot be measured by rank or protocol. You have earned my attention. That is a beginning." For the first time, Alex felt that the vast, impersonal universe had shifted. One small act of care, one simple decision to help, had put him in a position he could never have imagined. The Thrin delegation soon moved to settle, and the Queen allowed herself to be escorted to her quarters. Alex lingered, still absorbing what had just happened. He was no longer just a medic on Elysium Station. Somehow he had entered the history of a proud and ancient species. Later, when the adrenaline had faded, he realized he had forgotten one crucial detail. He hadn't asked her name. But somehow he felt that names were unnecessary. The bond, fragile and new, had already been formed. As he returned to his quarters that evening, Alex's mind buzzed with possibilities. The Thrin were known for their secrecy and their fierce loyalty to their queen. If a human could earn trust, even in a small way, what else could humans accomplish? Could they be seen as more than fragile newcomers in the galaxy? Could acts of kindness and courage truly define them in the eyes of alien civilizations? He didn't know the answers, but he knew one thing. His life, and humanity's place in the universe, had changed forever. And the Queen, she had said, something he couldn't stop thinking about. Only her spouse could do that. Alex smiled nervously, realizing that, in some strange way, he had already crossed a line no human had ever crossed before. The next morning, Alex Drayton arrived at the med bay early, hoping the quiet would allow him to review the supplies and plan for any upcoming emergencies. He still felt the echo of the Queen's words. Only her spouse could do that. Who didn't know what to make of it. He was just a human medic. Why would the Queen speak to him in such a way? Before he could focus on his tasks, a message arrived on the station's internal communication system. The Thrin Council requested his presence. Hesitant but curious, Alex donned his uniform and followed the directions to the docking bay conference room. Inside, the room was larger than most human conference halls. The walls shimmered faintly, reflecting light in colors Alex could barely name. The council stood there, a mixture of nervousness and authority in their posture. At the far end, the Queen rested on a ceremonial platform. She had recovered from her wound enough to sit comfortably, but a subtle stiffness remained in her wings. Alex stopped near the entrance, unsure whether to bow, nod, or remain still. The Queen's eyes flicked toward him, calm but unwavering. "Human," she said, her voice echoing slightly in the chamber. "You may approach." Alex stepped forward, feeling the weight of dozens of alien eyes on him. The council whispered among themselves, antennae twitching in rapid motion. He had expected disapproval, perhaps even anger. But instead, the Queen's gaze held only curiosity and something softer. Trust. "You cleaned my wound," she stated, almost as if it were a question. "This act is unprecedented. Explain why you did it." Alex hesitated, then spoke honestly. "I did what any medic would do. You were injured, and I had the ability to help. I couldn't stand by and do nothing." A murmur ran through the council. One elder tilted his head, antennae quivering. "Your species often acts without foresight," he said. "Why should we trust your decision-making?" Alex took a deep breath. "Because compassion is part of foresight. I didn't act without thought. I acted with care. I thought about the consequences, about the harm if I did nothing. That is what a medic does. That is what any being capable of empathy would do." The Queen's eyes softened and she tilted her head slightly. "Perhaps humans are more complex than I believed." For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Then the Queen spoke again. You will remain here for observation. Your actions warrant testing. If you pass, you will be remembered not as a human who touched a queen, but as a human who understands responsibility. Alex nodded, trying to hide his nervousness. I will do my best. The Queen rose slowly from her platform and the council stepped back. She walked toward him with deliberate grace, her many eyes focusing on him. Alex felt a shiver of anticipation. She stopped a few steps away, her presence overwhelming but not threatening. You will not be harmed, she said, but the tests will measure your intellect, your courage, and your understanding of others. They are not simple, and they will not be easy. Alex swallowed. I understand. The Queen lifted a small device from her side. It emitted a soft glow and hovered in the air between them. This will be your first challenge, she explained. It is a puzzle of strategy and observation. You must solve it without harming another living creature. Many of your kind would fail. Alex studied the device. It projected a small, shifting maze with lights that represented moving creatures. The goal was clear. Guide each creature to safety without collision. His mind raced as he considered the patterns. With careful timing and observation, he maneuvered the creatures one by one. Minutes passed, and he completed the puzzle without error. The Queen's eyes seemed to widen in approval. You are more patient than many, Thrin, she said. This is a rare quality. You may proceed to the next test. The next test came quickly. The Queen led him to a small training chamber on the ship. Inside were objects that seemed ordinary but carried hidden properties. Some levitated, some responded to touch, and others emitted light when exposed to sound. The challenge was to identify each object's unique behavior and classify them correctly. Alex knelt on the floor and began examining each item carefully, using logic and intuition. Hours passed and he methodically sorted the objects, recording his observations. The Queen watched silently, her expression unreadable. When he finished, she spoke. You have demonstrated understanding and patience. But knowledge alone is not enough. You must also show empathy and moral judgment. The final test took place in a simulated environment that mimicked a small Thrin colony. Alex was given control of a series of events: a flood in one sector, a fire in another, and creatures trapped in between. The challenge was to save as many lives as possible without favoring one group over another. Alex acted quickly but carefully, prioritizing those in the most immediate danger while keeping balance across the simulation. He rerouted the water, guided the creatures to safety, and extinguished the fire using creative solutions that minimized risk. By the end, nearly all the simulated inhabitants were unharmed. The Queen stepped forward, antennae twitching with approval. You have passed all tests. Your species may be unpredictable, but you are also capable of great responsibility. You understand compassion, intellect, and moral choice. Few have ever achieved this among the Thrin. Alex exhaled, relief flooding him. He had been nervous, afraid of failing in front of an entire alien council, but he had succeeded. More importantly, he had done it in a way that aligned with his humanity: careful, empathetic, and creative. You may rest now, the Queen said. But know this: your actions have set a precedent. Humans are no longer unknown quantities. You are exceptional. Alex bowed slightly, a gesture he hoped conveyed respect without overstepping. The council remained silent, their antennae flicking in various directions, but he noticed a subtle shift in their posture. Acceptance, if not admiration. Back in his quarters, Alex sat on the edge of his bunk, replaying the day in his mind. He had always believed humans were small players in the vast galaxy, fragile compared to advanced species like the Thrin. But the Queen had shown him that small actions, guided by integrity and care, could make a difference. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. It was a message from the Queen herself. Human Alex, your courage and care have not gone unnoticed. There is more to learn and more will be asked of you. Be ready. Alex stared at the message, a mix of excitement and anxiety swirling in his chest. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain: his life, and the perception of humans, was changing in ways he could never have imagined. That night, as he stared out the viewport at the stars stretching into infinity, Alex thought about the possibilities. Humans had always been underestimated, often dismissed as fragile or primitive. But in that moment, he felt the weight of potential, the idea that humans, through empathy, intelligence, and courage, could earn a place among the galaxy's most respected species. And somehow, he knew this was only the beginning. The next morning, Alex returned to the medbay, ready for whatever challenge awaited. The Queen had given him a glimpse into a larger universe, one where humans could matter, where a single act of care could ripple outward and change the course of history. He checked the supplies, organized the medbay, and allowed himself a small, quiet smile. The Thrinn had challenged him, tested him, and acknowledged his humanity. And Alex was ready to prove that humans were more than capable. Humans could be exceptional. As he prepared for the day, a sense of purpose settled over him. The galaxy was vast, full of unknowns, but for the first time, Alex felt that he belonged. And perhaps, just perhaps, humanity could belong too. The days that followed Alex Drayton's trials with the Queen were filled with a tense but quiet routine. He resumed his duties at Elysium Station, checking med kits, tending to routine injuries, and assisting with alien research programs. Yet, even in these small tasks, his mind could not stop returning to the Thrinn Queen and her unusual words. Your species may be unpredictable, but capable of great responsibility. Alex knew he had passed the initial tests, but the Queen had promised there would be more. He felt both nervous and curious, wondering what exactly awaited him. It came sooner than expected. One morning, a soft chime sounded from his quarters. A message projected from the Queen herself. Human Alex, the time has come to further understand your species. You will accompany me on a journey to the outskirts of the station. Observe, learn, and act when necessary. Alex's heart raced. He had never been invited to leave the human section of the station, let alone accompany the Queen herself. He quickly gathered his essentials, medkit, notebook, communicator, and made his way to the docking bay where the Queen awaited. Her ship, smaller than the massive vessel docked previously, shimmered softly under the station lights. Its design was sleek, almost elegant, but clearly meant for speed and agility. As Alex stepped inside, he marveled at the interior. Panels of glowing light shifted gently beneath transparent flooring, showing the stars beyond. The air was warm, almost comforting despite the alien technology surrounding him. The Queen turned toward him, wings folded neatly. You will see what many cannot, she said. Observe carefully. Actions have consequences. Your species is fragile but adaptable. Let us see how well you understand this. The ship lifted off the station smoothly. Alex felt the hum of the engines through his feet and realized how different space travel felt from the human shuttles he had trained on. Soon they reached a region of space that appeared quiet at first. Vast stretches of asteroid fields, floating debris, and faint glimmers of light from distant stars. Here, the Queen said, her eyes scanning the horizon, is a colony in need. Not life-threatening, but struggling. You must assist without direct orders from us. Show us your creativity and judgment. Alex nodded, understanding that this was another test, one that required observation, empathy, and problem-solving. Rather than following instructions. As they approached the colony, Alex saw the issues immediately. Small energy nodes supplying power were flickering, communication arrays were misaligned, and several minor injuries were reported among the colony's inhabitants. Alien creatures not unlike the Thrinn, but smaller and less organized. The Queen gestured toward Alex. Your species solves problems in unexpected ways. Let us see if that is true here. Alex wasted no time. He first approached the energy nodes. Using his knowledge of human engineering, he carefully adjusted the connections, applying a stabilization gel that repaired minor damage and prevented overheating. The colony's lights steadied. Next, he examined the communication arrays. The Mechanisms were different from anything human-made, but by observing patterns and mimicking the alignment of the colony's energy flow, he corrected their orientation. Messages that had been delayed or lost began transmitting smoothly. Finally, Alex moved to the injured inhabitants. They were timid, frightened by the Queen's presence and the new human's intervention. Speaking softly, he introduced himself with calm gestures. "I am here to help. You are safe." The creatures hesitated, antennae twitching nervously, but eventually allowed him to tend to their minor scratches and bruises. Alex improvised bandages from materials available, ensuring the creatures were comfortable without fear. As he worked, he noticed the Queen watching quietly, wings folded, her gaze calm but assessing. Once the immediate problems were addressed, Alex realized there was one more complication. A small, unstable asteroid nearby was slowly drifting closer to the colony. Its impact could disrupt power systems and communications. Alex suggested using the colony's energy nodes to nudge the asteroid gently off course, a risky but calculated move. The Queen tilted her head. "Your species has never demonstrated such foresight and creativity among the Thrinn. Proceed." Alex coordinated the effort. He calculated the force required, rerouted the energy nodes, and carefully guided the asteroid away. The colony was safe, its system stable, and the inhabitants now watching him with a mixture of awe and cautious appreciation. The Queen stepped forward. "You have shown intelligence, patience, and care. You did not follow orders blindly. You observed, understood, and acted responsibly. That is what sets your species apart." Alex felt a swell of pride but remained humble. "I only did what I thought was right," he said softly, and the Queen's gaze softened further. "Rightness is rare. Many act out of fear, ambition, or self-interest. You acted with thought and care. That is rare, even among us." As the ship returned to the station, Alex realized he had been tested not by a puzzle or simulation, but by real circumstances requiring judgment, empathy, and courage. It was an experience that no training could replicate, and the Queen's approval made him understand that humans were capable of more than he had imagined. Back on the station, the Queen debriefed with her council, but she included Alex in the discussion. They spoke of his methods, his reasoning, and the careful balance of caution and initiative he had demonstrated. The council's whispers were no longer tense, but curious, even admiring. "You have learned more about our culture in this short time than many humans ever could," one elder said, "and yet you act with respect, not arrogance." The Queen nodded. "He is worthy of observation. His species, though young in the galaxy, has potential. Humans can learn, adapt, and act with compassion. That is a quality to nurture, not underestimate." Alex felt a deep sense of responsibility. He had hoped his actions would be recognized, but he did not expect this level of respect or attention. Yet he also knew that this was only the beginning. The Queen's tests were far from over. There were greater challenges ahead, challenges that would require not just skill and courage, but wisdom and empathy in ways he could not yet predict. As he returned to his quarters that night, Alex reviewed the day in his mind. He thought about the colony, the creatures, the drifting asteroid, and the energy nodes. Each action had consequences, each choice mattered, and in that realization, he understood something fundamental. Humans were not weak. They were capable. They were adaptable. They could solve problems in ways that even the most advanced species might not anticipate. And perhaps the galaxy needed that unpredictability, that spark of human ingenuity. He lay down on his bunk, staring at the ceiling, the soft hum of the station around him. Tomorrow would bring new tests, new challenges, and new opportunities. But for the first time, Alex felt truly confident in his place in the universe. Humans could matter. Humans could make a difference. And he, a single human medic, was proof of that potential. The Queen's voice came softly in his mind through the communicator. "Observe, understand, act. That is your path. There is more to come." Alex smiled. The path ahead was unknown, full of possibilities and challenges, but he was ready. Humans had been underestimated for too long, and he intended to show the galaxy just how extraordinary they could be. Queen. For weeks he had lived among her delegation, learning their customs, understanding their culture, and demonstrating that humans could act with intelligence, compassion, and courage. The Queen's trust in him had deepened, and whispers of admiration for the human medic had spread quietly among the Thrin Council. One morning, a new message arrived for Alex. The Queen requested his presence in her quarters. Curious, he made his way through the gleaming corridors of her vessel, feeling a mixture of pride and anticipation. She was seated on her platform, wings folded, radiating calm authority. "Alex," she began, her many eyes focusing on him, "you have proven yourself beyond expectation, not only in your skills but in your character. The Council and I have observed your actions, and it is clear. Your species has potential. You have acted with empathy, intelligence, and foresight. That is rare." Alex felt a swell of pride but kept his posture humble. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what I thought was right." The Queen's antennae twitched thoughtfully. "Yes, and that is precisely what sets humans apart. You do not always follow tradition, but you act with thought and care. These qualities are needed in the galaxy. Perhaps it is time to take the next step." Alex's curiosity surged. "Next step?" he asked. The Queen nodded. "You have been invited to remain aboard my vessel, not as a guest, but as a representative of your species. Your perspective is valuable, and your actions have created trust. Between humans and Thrin, there is much to learn and much to share." Alex blinked. This was far beyond anything he had imagined when he first arrived on Elysium Station. I would be honored," he said finally, finding his voice steady despite his excitement. The Queen's gaze softened. "Then it is settled. Your presence will help guide understanding and cooperation between our species. And in time, perhaps, your species may be seen as a true partner in the galaxy, not merely newcomers." The next days were filled with preparation. Alex learned the intricacies of the Queen's ship, familiarizing himself with its systems, and understanding how the Thrin lived, traveled, and communicated. He worked closely with the crew, who had initially been wary of a human's presence but gradually began to respect his skills, ingenuity, and calm approach to problem-solving. Despite the advanced technology, Alex found comfort in simple acts: repairing minor machinery, assisting with medical care, and observing the Queen's thoughtful interactions with her council. He began to understand the subtle ways in which leadership and trust were intertwined in Thrin culture. One afternoon, while studying the navigation systems, Alex noticed a small, glowing anomaly on the ship's sensors. It was minor, almost negligible, but he mentioned it to the Queen. She examined it closely. "You have noticed what many might ignore. Humans often see details differently than the Thrin. That is valuable." Together, they traced the anomaly to a small cluster of drifting objects in space, a region that could have caused future disruptions if ignored. Using Alex's observations and the crew's expertise, they gently redirected the cluster along a safe trajectory. The Queen nodded in approval. "Your input has prevented potential issues. This is precisely why your presence is meaningful." As days turned into weeks, Alex's bond with the Queen and her crew strengthened. Though there was no romance in the human sense, there was mutual respect and trust, a connection that transcended species. The Queen often consulted him on decisions affecting minor colonies, environmental adjustments, and even interstellar trade matters. Alex realized that humans, though new to the galaxy, could offer unique insights precisely because they were not bound by centuries of rigid tradition. One evening, Alex and the Queen observed a distant nebula from the ship's observation deck. The colors shifted softly, reds blending into blues, and the stars beyond twinkled like tiny fires. Alex marveled at the beauty, feeling small yet significant at the same time. You have learned much about the galaxy, the Queen said quietly, but you have also taught us. Humans see in ways we often overlook: compassion, ingenuity, adaptability. These are gifts. You have reminded us that even the smallest actions can have lasting impact. Alex smiled. I've learned more than I could have imagined, too. The galaxy is vast and there is so much to explore and understand. I hope humans can contribute in our own way. The Queen's antennae twitched with what seemed like approval. They already are. Your species has been underestimated for too long. But you, one human, have begun to change that perception. You have shown that humanity's potential is not in strength alone, but in understanding, creativity, and care. That is the truest form of power. As the ship continued its journey, Alex reflected on how far he had come. From a simple medic on a distant space station to a representative of humanity aboard a legendary alien vessel, his life had changed completely. He remembered the first day he had cleaned the Queen's wound, unsure of the consequences, nervous, about cultural boundaries. That single act of empathy had set in motion a chain of events that altered not just his life, but the potential future of his species. Over time, the Thrin Council began to include Alex in their discussions more openly. They listened to his suggestions not simply as a human outsider, but as a trusted observer with valuable insight. Humans were slowly becoming recognized as partners, capable of contributing wisdom and innovation in ways previously unimagined. One day, as Alex worked in the medbay, a young Thrin crew member approached him nervously. "Human," the creature said. "Your methods, they are different but effective. We appreciate your presence." Alex smiled gently. "Thank you. I'm learning from all of you too. We all have something to share." The crew member nodded, antenna flicking in acknowledgement, and moved on. Alex realized that these small moments, the trust, the respect, the shared understanding, were the foundation of true alliances. It was not force or intimidation, but cooperation and empathy that would allow humans to thrive in the galaxy. Weeks later, the Queen invited Alex to join her on a formal meeting with leaders of other species at a nearby diplomatic hub. For the first time, he was recognized as a representative of humanity. The experience was humbling. He observed customs and traditions vastly different from human ways, yet his insight and the Queen's endorsement allowed him to contribute meaningfully. Leaders listened, asked questions, and respected his perspective. During a quiet moment, afterward, the Queen turned to him. "You have done more than I anticipated. Humans can indeed change the galaxy, not through conquest, but through wisdom, care, and courage. You are a living example." Alex felt a warmth in his chest. He realized that humans had finally earned a foothold in interstellar affairs, not as conquerors, not as subordinates, but as equals capable of shaping the future alongside ancient and advanced civilizations. As the ship prepared to return to Elysium Station, Alex reflected on everything he had experienced. Each test, each challenge, each small act of care and observation had built toward this moment. Humans were no longer unknown quantities. They were respected. They were partners. And it all had started with a single decision: to help an injured, alien queen. Even when protocol forbade it, Alex stood at the observation deck once more, gazing at the stars stretching into infinity. He felt a deep sense of purpose and pride. Humanity had potential, and he had a role in unlocking it. The future was uncertain, yes, but also full of promise. The Queen's voice echoed softly through the communicator. "You have done well, Alex. The galaxy is watching. Humanity is no longer invisible. Continue to act with care, courage, and wisdom, and the possibilities are endless." Alex smiled. He knew she was right. And for the first time, he truly believed that humans could rise to meet the challenges of the galaxy, not through brute strength, but through empathy, intelligence, and unwavering humanity. And in that moment, as the stars stretched endlessly around him, Alex felt certain that the bond between humans and the Thrin, forged through trust and understanding, would shape the galaxy for generations to come. He turned to the Queen, her presence calm and commanding, and nodded. "We'll do it together," he said quietly. The Queen's antennae flicked once, the closest the Thryn could show agreement and approval. Yes, together. And together, human and alien, they set a new course, one that would carry humanity into the stars, respected, capable, and extraordinary. The twin suns of Lumera were just beginning to rise, spilling golden light over the floating city of Elindra. From his ship's viewing deck, Commander Eli Voss watched the city awaken. The tower seemed to glow softly, reflecting the sunlight in a million shades of crystal blue and amber. He had traveled across 100 worlds, but Lumera felt different, alive, humble yet extraordinary. Eli tightened the strap on his uniform and glanced at the ceremonial plaza below. The city's leaders had requested his presence as an observer for the planet's annual Pioneer Festival, a celebration of the brave humans who had settled this world. The plaza was already buzzing with life, even at this early hour. Citizens moved gracefully across the floating platforms, children laughed as they chased glowing orbs, and merchants set up stands with shimmering fruits and exotic crafts. As he descended from his ship, Eli felt a strange excitement building in his chest. He had seen many impressive sights across the galaxy, stars collapsing into black holes, cities built entirely underwater, alien flora that could sing. But nothing had prepared him for what he saw next. There, atop a balcony of transparent crystal that seemed to float above the plaza, stood a young woman. Her hair caught the sunlight, turning it into a cascade of gold that framed her face perfectly. She wore a simple gown of soft white, adorned with delicate patterns that shimmered like starlight. Her posture was confident yet relaxed, and her eyes, deep, clear, and intelligent, swept over the crowd with quiet authority. Eli whispered to himself, almost in disbelief. "She's the most magnificent princess I've seen." The words barely left his lips before she turned toward him. For a heartbeat, everything else vanished, the bustling plaza, the glowing fruits, the shimmering towers. There was only her gaze. It was not cold or distant, it was curious, searching, almost as if she had known he would be there. Eli felt his heart quicken. In that moment, the air around him seemed charged with the promise of adventure, of something extraordinary about to unfold. He adjusted his uniform nervously and stepped forward. "Good morning, Your Highness," he said, bowing slightly. The princess inclined her head in acknowledgement, a small smile forming at the corner of her lips. "Commander Voss," she said, her voice smooth and warm, "I hear you have seen many worlds. Tell me, what makes one world truly extraordinary?" Eli blinked, caught off guard by the question. He had spent his life traveling, observing and analyzing, yet her question felt more profound than any report or mission briefing. "It's not the technology or the beauty," he said slowly, choosing his words carefully. "It's the people, how they live, how they care for each other, how they face challenges together. A world becomes extraordinary because its people make it so." Kalara's smile widened, and Eli noticed a spark of approval in her eyes. "Then you are in the right place," she replied. "Lumera thrives because its people believe in more than survival. They believe in possibility." He nodded, captivated not only by her words, but by the way she said them, with conviction, with hope, and with a light that seemed to make the floating city glow even brighter. The ceremony began as a gentle hum of music filled the plaza. Citizens gathered to honor the pioneers, and Eli followed Kalara as she moved among her people. She spoke to everyone with the same warmth she had shown him. A young boy proudly displaying a model of a solar harvester, an elderly woman tending a floating garden, a group of engineers explaining how they harnessed the planet's magnetic currents for energy. Everywhere she went, she radiated a mixture of confidence, kindness, and curiosity that drew people toward her. Eli could not help but notice how naturally she listened, how genuinely she seemed interested in each person's story. This was not a princess acting out her duty. This was a leader in the truest sense. He felt a quiet admiration building within him, not just for her, but for humanity itself. Even on a distant planet, Facing unknown challenges, humans had a way of inspiring hope. As the sun climbed higher, the plaza transformed into a kaleidoscope of light. Eli followed Kailara to a large amphitheater at the edge of the city, where the planet's history was being presented. Holographic images of the first settlers appeared, showing humans working side by side with Lumera's native species. Tall, luminescent beings with translucent wings and gentle expressions. Together they had built the floating platforms, harvested the energy crystals, and nurtured the forests. Eli's attention, however, kept returning to Kailara. She moved through the crowd effortlessly, her eyes bright with curiosity as she asked questions, listened to answers, and offered encouragement. It was not just her appearance that made her magnificent. It was her spirit, her presence, the way she made everyone feel seen and valued. Suddenly, a soft chime echoed through the plaza. A small drone floated toward Kailara, projecting a message in midair. She read it quickly, her brow furrowing slightly, and then glanced at Eli. "There are unusual energy readings near the northern forest," she said calmly. "It may be nothing, but I want to investigate." Eli's instincts kicked in. He had been trained to respond to potential threats, but something in her tone told him this was not a call for alarm. It was an invitation to explore, to solve a mystery, to see humanity, and perhaps Lumera, at its best. "May I accompany you, Your Highness?" he asked. Kailara considered him for a moment, then nodded. "I would like that, Commander." Together, they boarded a small hovercraft, gliding silently above the glowing forests. Lumera stretched out beneath them, a sea of green and gold illuminated by the planet's twin suns. Eli marveled at the beauty, but he also felt a sense of responsibility. This planet, its people, and this princess, this remarkable young woman, were all part of something greater than any mission he had ever undertaken. As they approached the northern forest, Eli noticed subtle changes in the energy readings. Small crystals embedded in the trees glimmered with a strange, fluctuating light. Birds with translucent wings flitted through the air, and luminous vines curled around ancient stones. There was a sense of magic here, a living energy that felt almost conscious. Kailara landed the hovercraft on a safe platform and stepped out, her gaze scanning the forest. "We must be careful," she said softly, yet with confidence. "Lumera's energy is alive. It responds to us, but it can also protect itself." Eli followed, keeping a steady pace beside her. As they moved deeper into the forest, the light shifted, creating patterns on the ground that seemed almost like messages. He realized that Lumera was not just a planet. It was a partner, a living ecosystem that required respect, understanding, and ingenuity to navigate. Kailara paused by a cluster of glowing vines. She reached out, touching them lightly, and they pulsed beneath her fingers. "It's beautiful," she whispered, "and powerful. We must learn from it, not dominate it." Eli felt a deep admiration for her philosophy. In every world he had visited, humans often tried to impose control, to bend nature to their will. But here was a princess who understood balance, harmony, and the strength of humanity when paired with respect for the unknown. They continued their exploration, discovering small anomalies in the energy patterns, vibrations that suggested intelligence, communication, or perhaps a mystery waiting to be solved. Eli realized that this day, which had begun with a simple observation of the princess's magnificence, had transformed into the first step of a remarkable journey. And as they paused on a small cliff overlooking the glowing forest, Eli found himself speaking aloud again, almost without realizing it. "You really are magnificent," he said, "not just in appearance, but in every action, every decision, every word." Kailara turned toward him, her eyes sparkling with curiosity and a hint of amusement. "And you are wise enough to see it," she replied softly. "Perhaps we will learn from each other." Eli smiled, feeling a sense of wonder and purpose unlike anything he had experienced before. He had traveled countless light years, seen wonders beyond imagination, and faced challenges that tested every skill he possessed. Yet here, on this distant glowing world, He felt that something new had begun, an adventure shaped by curiosity, courage, and the simple, extraordinary brilliance of a princess who had turned toward him. And for the first time in a long while, Eli understood that greatness was not measured in battles won or worlds explored, but in the lives touched, the minds inspired, and the courage to face the unknown with hope. The twin suns rose fully over Lumera, casting a warm glow over the floating city and the forest beyond. Commander Eli Voss knew, in that quiet moment, that the adventure ahead would change not only this world but the future of humanity itself. And at the heart of it all was the most magnificent princess he had ever seen, who had turned toward him and invited him into something extraordinary.